Hello, everyone, and Merry Christmas. As you can tell, I am under the weather, and it's one of the few occasions that I can get my tongue untwisted here. I can imitate Leonard Cohen and do a rendition of Hallelujah. Excuse me. But that's not what this video is going to be about. Let's get this to play on loop if I can. If not, you're just gonna stare at this image. I have an axe to grind with the hospitality industry. And I've been using Airbnb for 7 years, as it tells me. And naturally, the scale of which you could rent somewhere goes from the really cheap to the astronomically expensive. And you kind of have to shake your head and wonder for a second, how much are people actually making off of these short-term rentals? And I've gone through a period recently where my income is not stable, and my survival is dependent upon the excuse me sorry my survival is dependent upon the prioritization of what is going to keep me at my job, and thus employed and moving forward with my life, and to recover from the year that was taken from me, because it was. And I refuse to acknowledge any other possibility, because I've turned out to be correct in every single aspect of which I argued for. And that's a scary thing, is that sooner or later you're going to face a scenario in which you will have to go against the grain, and people will put you out in the cold for it. They will literally come after your income and your means of making money and your means of affording your life, just because they disagree with you. Even in a civilization such as ours, that preaches the gospel of acceptance and tolerance, but is quite the opposite. It is intolerant of certain views and does not accept a dissonant view of how we go about our daily lives, and in this debt trap of exploitation. And this sounds like a bachelor's degree of history, but really, the further you go up the educational chain, the simpler that it is. But the more nuanced it becomes, because the more human it really is. The humanities of surviving not only the harsh realities of man versus nature, but man versus other men or other women or something of the same. And what that really comes about to is, when I'm talking about the hospitality industry, is the price at which you pay for a service that is, quite frankly, not something that is out of convenience. It is a basic need, and in which people have forgotten, in which they fill this space again out of providing a service, but only to people that can afford to pay for such a service. They offer shelter, they offer nourishment, but they do so at such a premium. And that's what I have a problem with. And I've encountered this on more than one occasion, in which the provider has a space that goes empty in a time of your need, but because the third party, or the middleman, is dictating the rules, you can't make a deal with them, even if they're willing to, or they're not willing to because there's someone else involved, and the space goes empty. This is the whole idea behind the vacancy tax, in which a property, that which can house people and is, you know, safe to do so, but they don't. But they don't. And again, this is my issue, because I've slept in my car on more than one occasion, just to make ends meet, and because I chose to, not out of not out of a reason to test myself, but because it became a necessity. And it's not something I want to do long term, but there's a lot of people out there that face living out of their car or some improvised shelter for long periods of time, not because they have a drug problem or they have some substance abuse issue or some mental health issue, and they're or physical disability that does not allow them to work a job, but because they don't earn enough money for the convenience of having a shelter. On the other side of this, you know, I understand why some people become homeless on purpose, as a matter of civil disobedience. The whole homesteading and going off the grid as a means of resistance and of uh, active non-compliance to a economic house of cards that depends on a continuous growth model, in which construction and the demolition of property is the only thing that keeps people employed. But then the further implications of such a thing are not only of the shelter and of the nourishment of individuals who are enterprising, but also the enabling of people that have no reason to engage in our culture to begin with. People bring their baggage with them wherever they go. And it doesn't matter where you're from or where you're going to, you will always bring baggage with you. And people bring their conflicts with them. You might say, "Oh, I'm going to start anew somewhere," but the truth is that you can't run from who you are or how you were brought up or your traditional values or your family. You can't run from your past. You see, time comes for us all. And that's really the long game that I'm playing when I decide on purpose that I'm going to sleep in my car because I don't want to pay $100 a night for a place just so I can have the fallacy of security, and so I don't quote unquote freeze to death. But the truth is that the real empowerment comes from the training that I received in cadets from the Canadian Armed Forces and from scouting. And I will not ever forget that. There are a lot of people out there that don't understand what it is to survive in the battlefield of life. And it's not the bodybuilder or the person that consumes the most calories that survives. It's the one that's the most resourceful and the one that needs the least amount of resources and the one that's willing to eat rotten food or to walk 36 kilometers between city town centers just to get home. Or the person that understands the nuances of social hierarchies and of group psychology, so as when to know and when to recognize the writing on the wall when something is going south and cannot be salvaged. Some people would call that instinct. Other people would call that being a veteran. I myself, I'm not a veteran. I don't get to say that. But what I can tell you is that I have survived a lot of different scenarios, and I've been watching people for a very long time. And I know for certain that an AI or a machine that targets certain individuals is not going to dictate to me how and when I enforce justice. And I'm not saying this out of vigilantism, but again, out of peaceful non-compliance. There's a real difference between self-determination and absolute authoritarianism and humanitarianism. So if you're going to watch this video, I want you to choose which one of those are you going to be, because they're not always the same thing. I chose to buy a knife over gasoline or an insurance premium for my car that is an extortion rate, because I've been caught speeding a few times. Or maybe more than just a few times. But, you know, That's a little bit of the cat and mouse, just a little bit. Got to keep people on their toes. I don't think that I think that people that are absolutely clean are suspicious, more so than people that have a few blemishes on their what's it their cart. It was their tabula rasa. That's what I was looking for, not carte blanche. Now, the phrase that I really like, or that I came up with, is service, not servitude. And I think that means a lot. I think that encapsulates, excuse me, I think that encapsulates a lot of the motivations that underlie a lot of these videos and the actions, the videos that I create and the actions that I take. Because, I am here to do a service, but I am not here to be a slave. Thanks for watching.